Our next storyteller hardly needs an introduction here in Fairbanks. He's famous for being one of just a few police officers working in Fairbanks during the pipeline days, the crazy 70s. And his name is J.B. Carnahan. And he's going to take us on a little vacation here and show us that Alaskans can get in as much trouble out of the state as we can in. He's going to take us on a little vacation to Hawaii with this story I call Fishing for Chickens.
Nice stool. I like it. You know, there are people outside who think we're a little strange. I'm going to tell you a little story about a friend of mine and I. We took a little vacation, and then you decide if we're strange. I see nothing wrong with it. My old friend Vern Carlson, the old State Farm guy, he and I are fishing buddies. So a couple of years ago, we decided to take our wives and go to Hawaii. Big deal. February. It's not the sort of thing we got to do very often, so you want to maximize it. So, of course, I took along my fishing gear, because I don't go any place if I don't have a little fishing gear. And we decided that Kauai was a good place and probably a good place to fish. And I noticed the minute we got our rental car and started toward the hotel, there were chickens everywhere. Yeah, I mean, really, there are chickens everywhere. Fabulous place, you'd never starve. So anyway, we went to this place, I think it was called the Plantation, and it's got bungalows on this. There's this huge, big lawn, and there's bungalow, and then the hotel part's over here. Well, we've got a bungalow right in the center. Right? Everybody in these other bungalows can see us. So Vern and I had a adult beverage, and we're looking around and we say, you know, there's no place to fish here. This is pretty rocky. I don't see any place where we can get a boat. And I told Vern, I said, hey, Vern, all these chickens. I not only have my fishing gear, I brought along a can of my special bait, corn. Works great for almost anything. So he says, well, great. I said, I'll tell you what, Vern. Let's get ready. So we got one of the rattan chairs, brought it out on the porch, and of course, being an Alaskan, I had duct tape with me, and we duct taped each one of the four legs down, so we had a good fighting chair, you know. Now, in between, I should mention, in between the cottages, it's kind of like jungle growth, right? And I'm not seeing any chickens right now. It's kind of like when you go fishing, you know, you get ready, and where are they? But anyway, we get Vern all in, we get him in the fighting chair, and about this time while we're doing this, people are starting to pop out on their porches, right? See, what are these guys doing? So we get the fishing gear all squared away, and of course people are starting to figure it out. I loaded up with just three corn nibbles. Get it out, I said, okay, now you ready, Vern? Vern was ready. So out it goes. At this point, we're just playing, I mean, you know, out of nowhere. I mean, out of nowhere. Oh, by the way, did I tell you these chickens weigh 70 pounds? They're vicious. Actually, we were doing these people a big favor. Maybe not 70, maybe 5 or 6. But anyway, out it goes, and out of nowhere comes the biggest chicken you've ever seen in your life. Brrrt, pow! And the fight is on. There's Vern. He's in his fighting chair. I'm right there helping him every bit I can. You know, tell him, okay, down with the rod, that's it. Pull up, reel down, pull up, reel down. What's going on? We go for about 10 minutes. This chicken is not happy. This is an unhappy chicken. And I think most of the chickens in Kauai are not happy chickens anyway. So he gets about, 10 feet from us. And did I mention that the crowd had gotten larger? We must have 100 people there. But anyway, we're having a good time. But the chicken, who is not, gets about 10 feet from the porch. And he figures out that all of his trouble comes from that man who is holding a stick in his hand, and he's causing me trouble. At which time, the bird, I didn't know they could fly. Did you know they could fly? I mean, nobody told us they could fly, or we might not have done this. Up it comes, pow, hits Vern right in the chest. Did I mention he was bare-chested? Probably another reason we grew a crowd. And anyway, I had not duct taped things as I should have, apparently, because he later told me this was my fault. The chair goes over backwards. Him, the chair, the chicken, oh, the chicken. And the chicken is still hooked just on the end of its beak, not, any place that's too nasty. Thank heavens for that. But anyway, so I'm trying to get the chicken. Vern, in the meantime, is trying to, he's flat out on his back, and he's trying to get up. So finally, Vern gets rolled over, right, and he's on all fours. I finally got the chicken. Those chickens are tough, dangerous, and tough, and they don't like people to hold on to them. So anyway, as I get the chicken, the hook falls out. So I take the chicken, and I throw it up. Does it go that way? No. Right down on Vern. Right. At which time, the chicken shows his disgust by crapping on Vern's naked back and flying off. Right. Well, by this time, the crowd isn't enjoying themselves. They figured out, these guys are from Alaska. This is kind of the thing they do, right? So we're having a good time with people, and the people coming by, and Vern had about that big, he had a bruise. I mean, whoa. Nothing like man boobs with a bruise. But, so anyway, we get everything settled down, everything's going fine, and we decide it's time for us to go to dinner a couple hours later. So we're walking over to the hotel part where the dining room was, and this very stern man, very stern, identifies himself as the hotel manager and tells me that Kauai's chickens are kind of like the American eagle. Yeah. I'd never go fishing for eagles. And that he would appreciate it if we did not fish for any more chickens, or they would have to ask us to forfeit the rest of our week. And about the time he finishes that, we turn into the dining room to a standing ovation. I turned to the manager and I said, "Who's right here? You or me?" I never heard from him again. Thank you very much.
J.B. Carnahan. Oh, I'm sorry. J.B. Carnahan. Our next storyteller is the kind of person who could entertain you for an hour about her 15-minute trip to the grocery store. Her name is Von Jean Jackson. She had a very interesting introduction to Alaska when she came up here in 2005, and so I'd like to introduce her and the story I call Alaska Through Beer Goggles.
Oh, no.
You want to do the song first?
No. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Von Jean. And since I'm going to be telling you my business, I'd like to know your names all at the same time. Say your names. Perfect. Now, I will tell you my business. I got here in 2005, May 28th. It's been 9 years, will be next month. And I got here via the Bible, to be truthful with you. I was going through a lot of things. I had lost a lot of people in my life. They just died, just one after another. I never got a chance to get over them. Well, I went on a trip. It was a cruise. I have a girlfriend named Jan, and every time she got divorced, we went on a cruise. Well, this particular time we decided we were going to go to take a Mexican Riviera, wonderful cruise. And we did so. I don't remember much of it, but I did videotape it. So I was in a karaoke bar. I do a little singing here and there. And these two individuals came into the karaoke bar. To me, I was drunk as hell. I don't remember much of it. But they came up to me after the song and said a few things to me and said, oh, we're from Alaska. And I'm like, Alaska? Well, I'm from Chicago, very south side. I'm going to be very honest with you. So they started hanging out with us, my friend and I, Jan, and we spent some time at Puerto Vallarta. We rented a car in Mazatlan. We had a good time. And the last thing they said was, you come visit me in Alaska. And I'm like, right. I ended up on my knees in 2002 and 3. I don't remember anything about it. I lost my mom, was the last one. My brother died 6 months before her. So after my mom, that's when I crumbled. I spent a year, I cannot tell you what happened. However, those two individuals from Alaska kept up with me. They told me, or my friend actually, bring her to Alaska. Get her away from Chicago for a little bit. Give her a little time. So I bent down. I said, okay, Lord, if this is what I'm supposed to do, I'm going to try this, but I don't think I'm going to like it, but I'm going to do it anyway. I sold my house. I had 2 cars. I sold the 2 cars, packed 3 bags, got on an airplane, which they spent their air miles to get me up here. So I get off the plane, and everybody's looking at me like I'm an alien with 3 heads because I have on a whole lot of damn clothes. And it's May. So, of course, I had to run to the bathroom and do my thing and change clothes. And I got off the airplane, and my friends met me there. And immediately, we dropped my bags. We went straight to Hardin Lake. At Hardin Lake, I sat in the middle of this damn field, nothing but sun. I couldn't get over the fact that the sun didn't go down. I sat there for hours. They had bought me this big bottle of Christian Brothers, and yes, I did drink it. And I sat there, and I'm looking at the sun. I'm calling people up on the phone. I'm like, you wouldn't believe this. Well, it's like 10 o'clock here, and it's like 1 or 4 o'clock in the morning there, and nobody's answering the phone. I'm like, I'm excited. I'm like, you got to get the sun. It's not moving. This is amazing. Somebody answer the damn phone. So I'm like, okay, finally somebody answers the phone. It's 1 o'clock in the morning here, and of course then it's 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning in Chicago, and I'm thinking, oh, finally, damn it, somebody answered the darn phone. You wouldn't believe the sun hasn't gone down. Yeah, click. Okay, so I dial up another one. I say, you would never believe what's going on in this town, man. The sun hasn't moved, and I'm in the sun. I got on a sun hat. I got my glasses on. It's 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Somebody else answers the phone. Click. I'm like, I can't believe this. You know what I'm saying? I was like, okay, well, I'm going to get over this. So the next day, out at Hardin Lake, I am so broke down from being so stupid from sitting out in that sun. I'm sunstroked at this point. I can't get out. I can't go out of the. We had a little rig that we took down there, and the little homes you can roll around on, and and so you know what I'm talking about. So I'm sitting there. I can't leave out. I'm wondering what's wrong with me, and of course somebody say, "You dumb ass woman. You've been sitting out in the sun for like 6 hours. You haven't moved. You drank a gallon of liquor." And something's wrong with you if you think you're supposed to be moving around about this time. So I said, okay, well, I can deal with that. So we came back to Alaska. Now, the thing is that my whole visit was supposed to last all of 6 months because I wanted to see the transition from summer to winter. I thought it was amazing. So I moved along, and my friend that I had met through them took me all through Alaska. I have some fabulous pictures, fabulous memories, fabulous people. But what I've noticed about Alaskans is that you guys are crazy. I met the weirdest people I have ever met. Now, maybe it's because it's not that many people in in the state of Alaska. Maybe that's why, because I'm from a place where it's 8 million people. You just don't meet them all. But here, I have run into all you crazy people. And you know what I figured out is this. I figured out that it's not that you're so much crazy, it's just a lack of deficiency of the sun. You don't know you crazy. That's what it is. And I figured it out. I said in 4 years, I'm gonna be as nutty as y'all. And I am. I'm totally out of my rocker. Yes, I take uphill too. So, I've been down the Hall Road, I've been to Valdez, I've been fishing. I can't believe it because I'm not a fisher. But I went dip net fishing last July in Kenai. I caught 39 freaking fish. 39, thank you. And they were all this big. I've done that Hall Road, and I swear to God, my uterus is still on that Hall Road right now. You feel me on that? I know you do. The friend that took me all around Fairbanks and took me all through Alaska, she lives on Murphy Dome, I guess Errol Street. Now, this is an experience I will never forget because I am so city. I couldn't believe that I let a stranger take me up that damn road all by myself. And she took me up, and all you can see off the side is other houses way down, okay? We get up to this place, and she has 31 animals at that time, 23 dogs and 8 cats. And this little bitty cabin. And an outhouse. The outhouse was at least 25 feet away from the cabin. Okay, now it's wintertime. But when it got cold out, you got to do the... Okay, you got to put on all these damn clothes, and you got to walk 25 feet. But it was jacked up. I'm gonna tell you what. I had to put on these big ass socks, these big old boots. I had to put on my thingy, and I had a big old coat with woof around. I was hot in that coat though, with the big old woof thing around. And we had to go over. And then it's cold out there. Now she lived on the top of this mountain, mountain, and she had a moose called Sally. You're laughing, I didn't think it was funny. Because I had never seen a moose before. And she used to tell me about this moose, and this moose used to block the door. Any time of the day, any time of the night, it would block the door. And if you gotta pee, or you can't get out the damn door. So my friend said, well, stick a fork in the booty. I'm just saying. That's what she told me to do. I said, you know what? If it gets down to sticking a fork in a moose's booty, it's not going to be me. You already know what to do with your moose, because this is your moose. You move that little thing, that big thing out the way. So she took a fork and she poked Sally's booty. And Sally didn't want to move. So needless to say, I had to use the honey bucket, but I'm still here, and I'm still traveling. It's a big-ass state, and I'm going to cover every bit of it. So you're going to get more stories from me. God bless you.
Von Jean, ladies and gentlemen. Our next storyteller is one of the funniest and most genuine people I know, and I've known her for a few years now. She's another one I just said, will you tell a story? I don't care what it is. Will you tell a story? When I heard her story, I was really deeply moved, and I'm sure you will be too. Let's give a nice round of applause for Melissa Buchta.
Okay, so let me just start by saying I love Alaska. I do. I really do. I've loved growing up here. I love living here. And when I say that living in our state is like living in a postcard or living in those travel brochures that we pass around to get all the tourists to come up here and everything. It's true. I mean, it really is true. Our state really does look like that. And I love it a lot. But it can be really difficult living here for someone who is partially blind, like myself. So a little bit about myself. I am what is considered legally blind, so I'm not sighted enough for the sighted people, but I'm not blind enough for the blind people either. I walk this really weird line of this just really weird gray area. Just is kind of where I'm living. And when you're growing up here in this state, your parents probably own a motorhome or a camper or a big van or a car or something, and you do what everybody does. You go on road trips. Road trips are great. You can bond with your family. You get lots of awesome stories and everything. But you're mostly when you're in Alaska, you go on a road trip to see the wildlife, to see the scenery, because it's awesome. A lot of that is lost on someone who can't see. Because we'd go down to like Denali, or we go to Seward or whatever. Growing up in Anchorage, I moved up here to go to college, but we go up to Denali and everything. And did you know that blind people get in national parks for free? That's really great. Think about that for a second. Because really, what's a blind person going to do in a national park? I mean, everyone's like, oh, look, McKinley is so beautiful. Look at Denali, it's great. I can't touch Denali. Denali's not going to say something. I can't go like, hey, Denali, how's it going? I'm doing fine, how are you? That's not going to happen. I can't go to Yellowstone and touch Old Faithful either. I can't really get very close to Old Faithful. I can hear it, so I guess that's pretty cool. I've never been to the Grand Canyon either, but I'm pretty sure that would also be lost on me. It's deep. Yay! Fantastic. Can we go eat some tacos? So, and of course, like I said, the wildlife. That's another really big thing about road trips here and living in Alaska. All the beautiful wildlife. You got your moose, your seals, your puffins, your polar bears, your brown bears, wolves. It's gorgeous. I love it. It's great. And we go on these road trips, and we'd bring our binoculars and everything. My parents loved going down to Seward because it was so lush and beautiful, and it was close, much closer than Denali. And they'd go, oh, look at the eagles. Look at the dull sheep sitting up there on the mountains. Oh, they're so beautiful. And we'd pull off to these overlooks, to see the belugas and everything. And my mom would put these giant binoculars up to my face and try in vain to point my head in the direction that she thought the wildlife was. So we're sitting here, she's like, look, it's over here. And my dad and my brother just basically out of sheer embarrassment and or pity would just kind of sidestep away. We don't know these people. And people would come up and tap my dad on the shoulder and go, do you know that woman? It looks like she's abusing her child. No, she's just trying to see the belugas, like everybody else. So I decided, because I was sick and tired of having my neck wrenched around by my mother, and I was sick and tired of my parents being so darn disappointed that I couldn't see anything because they were like, we're not fulfilling your life, we're not giving you a good time. And I really, really wanted them to know that I appreciated all that they were doing and this experience and everything. So I decided to lie to my parents. I just figured, why not? Everybody will be happy. So whenever we would see an eagle or a dull sheep or a bear, I'd put my binoculars up to my face and go, wow, that's amazing. It's so cool. And I couldn't really be that specific because, I couldn't be like, oh, look at it reach into the stump and just like, but that's a boulder. Right, but the bear. So what I would do is I would pretend to see all these things, and I'd have like stock footage from the Discovery Channel going in my head. Because, I know what a bear looks like. So, yeah. One day we went and took our annual summer road trip. We ended up in Seward, Alaska. It's a little harbor town for those of you who might not have been. It's where all the wildlife boats and cruises go out of and everything. So we got on this boat, and we're all excited, and I'm super excited. I want to see a whale, I want to see an orca. I love orca whales. I think they're beautiful creatures, and I think they're amazing. And that's what I wanted to see when we got on this boat. And of course, we get on the boat, 2 hours later, just doing our thing. We've seen seals and puffins, and we saw a bear even, and we saw dolphins. It was great. It was a really great day. We were lucky to get to see all this wildlife. And of course, we saw glaciers and beautiful scenery, which is easy for me to see because glaciers don't move very fast. And they make noise sometimes, which is nice. Very nice. Glacier, the most accessible of the Alaskan scenery if you're blind. So we're going along in this boat, and we're doing our thing, and I decided instead of feeling upset and down about seeing all these animals, I would just learn to experience and have fun on this cruise in my own way. So I'd stand on the bow of the boat, and I would hold on to the boat railings and feel the perspiration and the cold water of the metal on my hands. And I felt the boat going up and down and up and down and rocking from side to side. I was one of the few people on the boats that it was lucky enough not to get seasick. So I would enjoy that feeling. I'd look at the rock formations as they would drift in and out of the mist as we would go past them. I let the wind go through my hair. It was beautiful, and I was really, really enjoying myself. And I thought, even if I don't see a whale, I've had an incredible day. Well, we were about to go back to the harbor, and we pulled off into this cove because the captain had got a radio call from another ship that there was a pod of orcas in this cove. And so we pull up into this cove, and everybody is real quiet, and the captain's like, okay, if we see whales, don't scream and point, because then you'll just scare them away, And so everyone's out of the cabins on the boat, and we're all on the railings, and this was like a triple-decker boat. It was a big boat, so all 3 decks full of people. And we see them, this pod of orca whales, and they're just hanging out in this cove. And they kind of disappear into the water, and the captain pulls up, and he shuts the boat engine off. We're all really, really quiet. And the whales decide to swim over towards our boat. So we're all looking at these whales. And we're all just waiting. We don't know what's going to happen. I'm standing there. I got my binoculars. And I'm just thinking about whales, in my head. I just saw Free Willy. So just putting those images in there, just getting ready for another yay. But the whales surrounded our boat, and right in front of me comes this dorsal fin. This beautiful, black, proud dorsal fin comes slowly up out of the water, right in front of me, probably about to the end of this stage. And I can see about 3 feet in front of me before everything starts to get really blurry. So this whale comes up. And I can see, it's right in front of me. I can see the white marks above the whale's eyes, and I can see the white marks from the belly that kind of come up on the back. I can see the whale's tail. And I just stood there. I was holding on to the railing so tight, my knuckles were turning white. And I was just so afraid that if I moved or did anything or second-guessed myself, that the whale would just disappear. But the whale didn't. We just kind of stood there in each other's space, just sensing each other and looking at each other. And I can just remember thinking to myself, wow, finally, I'm here. We're here together. And I looked at the whale and I whispered so that no one else could hear, thank you. Thank you for letting me be here with you. Thank you for letting me see you. I didn't even have to use my binoculars. I was so happy. And I knew that when we got back to the docks, I wasn't gonna have to lie to my parents this time about seeing something that I really, really, really wanted to see. Now, granted, the next day I went back to lying to my parents. And I still lie to my parents to this day, actually, about seeing wildlife. We've just kind of come to accept it. It's our thing. So, thank you.
So great.
Thank you.
Melissa Buchta, ladies and gentlemen. Now you get what I was talking about. Our final guest this evening came all the way up from Anchorage to tell his story, and he tells me this is the first time that he has shared it in public, so we are really thrilled to have him. Guy Schroeder was deck boss on the ill-fated fishing vessel Katmai in 2008. Eager to get home after a long season of fishing, his boss, Captain Blake, tried to beat out a vicious Bering Sea storm. And that decision would cost 7 of the 11 crew members their lives and leave Guy Schroeder and 3 others fighting for their lives in a torn and battered life raft. This story was reenacted on Discovery Channel's Deadliest Catch, and according to Guy, they got a lot of the facts wrong. So now tonight, hear what really happened on the Katmai and to the crew. Special thanks to Karin McElroy for her key role in bringing us this story tonight. Please give a very warm Fairbanks welcome to Guy Schroeder. Sit or stand, whatever you want to do.
I want to explain to you about the Western Aleutians and the water, how God can just stand it up in a blink of an eye, where there's whirlpools and the size of this whole building, and the tide against the wind, the North Pacific crashes into the Bering Sea, and 50-foot waves will stand up just out of nowhere, uncontrollable, magical and mystical. It's off the chain. About the middle of October, we had been loading up the boat. Fishing was pretty good for the most part, and delivering to ADAC, Naval Base there. And we had all the original crew with us. 2 of the guys got off the boat this next trip, and this was the trip, the October 22nd trip. One was an engineer who ran the refrigeration, but he didn't do a very good job, so he got really frustrated. He got off the boat in Natick, and one other guy got off too. But luckily, they had got off, otherwise they wouldn't be around today. This is kind of a very distraught story about the guys that were fighting for their lives all night. And basically what happened is we were in a Force 4 hurricane trying to get across Amchitka Pass and trying to get in for Halloween. That was the skipper's decision. And we got by semi-Sabachino Island and we lost our steering and the boat got sideways. So I got woken up. And since I was a deck boss, I was mustered up to the wheelhouse to talk to the skipper. At first, we were listing to the port side, and we're getting heavier and heavier in the water. We had 2,776 40-pound blocks of codfish, which is all our freezers are full. We had 450 pots on the boat. We had all our tanks, 4-string, 2.5 miles of 1.25-inch ground line strings, and 4 extra ones on deck because we were also deep water black cod fishing. Well, that was way too much weight for that boat, and the boat was never restabilized for this new fishery. It used to be a dragger, so that's another fault on the owner's parts. But So we had listed to the port side, and we weren't keeping up with the water at all. And the boat got heavier and heavier. We got sideways. It was blowing over 100 miles an hour. And like I said, 50-foot seas and tied against the wind, just tearing us apart. And so I got everybody suited up as fast as I could. And I sent 3 guys down to the bottom part of the deck where I threw over a raft to them. And I was hoping that they were going to open it. What I did is I sent them back to hook up the crane to get to some of the strings to get them off the boat. But like I said, the motors wouldn't work. I didn't know that until at the time when I tried to fire the crane up. Well, I lost from there. I don't know what happened to those other 3 guys. Hopefully, I was thinking that they had gotten in the raft, but it comes to find out they didn't. And if they did, nobody else knows about it. But the other 7 of us, we did get into a raft. But what happened is the engineer, he never suited up. He stayed in the wheelhouse, tried to jockey the boat around, tried to keep us even keel, which was nearly impossible to do. And we never did find his body, as well as one of the other guys next to me in the raft. But anyhow, when he was jockeying the boat back and forth, I had a clove hitch, and I should never used a clove hitch around the rail, but I was so scared of losing the raft that nobody would get into it. I almost didn't get this knot off. So the boats, after I did get it out, the boat started listing to the starboard side. And we're getting heavier and heavier in the water. And next thing you know, I'm losing my balance and bam, did a face plant right into the anchor winch. Knocked out my grill. And then I turned around and I jumped into the water at that point and swam to the raft. And I noticed the engines are starting to die, and then the lights were starting to dim out. And right before those lights went dim and went out, I seen the outline of that mast coming right down on me, just how it's there, and then the lights go out, and you still see that outline. Then I thought for sure that mast was going to take us down. And but luckily, the mast never got me. And okay, and then after that, we took a wave. The boat disappeared on us, and we took one big wave, and it knocked all of us out of the raft. And 6 of us got back into the raft. We lost 1 person at that time. It was a big wave. Then another wave hit us, and only 5 of us made it back. And in between those 2 hits, we were trying to tie the door closed, the flaps on the top. It wasn't a zipper kind, it was a tie flap. Well, it was blowing so hard that we couldn't get it tied off and close it up. So we were exposed to that side of the weather. Then a 3rd wave that hit us ripped the whole top off of the raft, and there's a strobe light on the outside of the raft on the top, and there's a dim light on the inside. Well, once we lost the top of the raft, the only orange on the raft, you couldn't find the raft anymore because it was pitch black. And you're in a hurricane, a force 4 hurricane. It's one thing to be on land in a hurricane, but in those Aleutian passes, it's a whole different ballgame. And, wow. Anyhow, so we lost the top of the raft, and there's a donut which is attached to the raft, the top. And that is like a little frisbee with a line on it where you can throw it out to the guys and try and get them back if you lose somebody. Well, since you lost the top, you don't have the donut either. And there's survival equipment, 2 bags, big Ziploc bags, and those are duct taped to the inside. I made the mistake of taking the bags off the side of the raft, opening them up, and distributing out the water to the guys. And there's flares in there and pumps and just mirrors and different survival equipment stuff, which you can see up to 50 miles on the horizon on one of those reflective mirrors. You might want to keep that in mind. Anyhow, the thing about losing all your stuff, well, I know I made a mistake of taking it off the side, but what you want to do is expect the worst possible scenario at all times. And imagine that raft keep flipping and flipping. So don't take the stuff off the sides of the raft. Just cut a slit halfway in the bag as small as you can get your hand in, which isn't very small because you got those big Gumby suits on, and it's hard to make it's hard to get anything out of it. So, and another hard part was getting back into the raft because there's no cobweb lines on the top and the bottom of the raft itself there. So there's a line on the outside around it, and yeah, sure, you can hold on to the outside of the raft, but crawling back into it without a cobweb line is virtually impossible. And when you're getting thrown out over 20 times through the course of the night, you get worn down really fast, and it just takes all the strength and energy out of you to get back in a couple times. But I had to pee 7 times through the night, and I'd pee in my suit, and it felt so good. First thing that hits you is cramps, and you just seize up, cramp up bad. You just start shaking, just uncontrollably shaking, let alone being scared out of your mind. And so I'd take in the cold air through my nose, and I'd blow hot air into my suit through my mouth, and I'd try and keep that pee as warm as I possibly could, and that helped quite a bit. That brought me in with only moderate hypothermia instead of severe hypothermia, like the other 3 survivors came in with. And 17 and a half hours fighting for my life all night long in that kind of scenario was off the chain. They found me 35 miles away the next evening, and I made a pact with God. I said, if you get me through this one, I will give my life to you, Jesus, and I will get baptized. And so he kept his word, and I'm trying to keep mine. I mean, none of us are perfect, but you know what? I've seen the hand of God like nobody else has seen it before, and I'm still very distraught about it. When I came up in that helicopter, I couldn't stop crying because I knew the guys that I had just worked with for months were all dead, and they all died a very terrible death. And I just couldn't stop crying, and I thought for sure that helicopter was going to crash on the way, and everything else had gone wrong all night for us. I thought for sure this helicopter was going to crash, so I left my suit on and was preparing for a way to get off the helicopter if it hit the water. I mean, that's where your mind is set. The worst scenario just can happen all night long like that. And anyhow, there's a lot of the story I can't really talk about because I'm still too distraught. But thank you for your patience and your understanding. And that's all I have.
Connie, Guy's wife, has a few things to say about the experience from her perspective.
I've never spoken about this publicly either. I've tried to be quiet and not take away from everything that Guy has been through. I definitely do not want to steal his glory. But as his wife and the mother of his children, I just think it's important that everybody knows that we weren't told everything as it was happening. A lot of information was withheld from us. So we went a long time not knowing anything. Guy was in the ocean struggling for his life for 13 and a half hours before I got the call that the boat had sank. And we had 2 boys at the time that were around 5 and 7 years old. And I was just going to pick them up from school when I got the call from the owner saying that the EPIRB had gone off and that 10 men were missing, and that's pretty much all he had to say. I told him, I said, well, you've got bad information because I just got an email from Guy saying that he's coming home tomorrow, and they're coming home. So I don't know, where you're getting your information, but you got to be wrong. And he's like, no, Connie, the EPIRB went off. And I said, well, what's an EPIRB? I mean, I don't know. He's the first fisherman I've ever been with. And they said the EPIRB pass is a beacon that goes off once it's been submerged in the water for over 30 minutes. And it's a signal that goes out that the Coast Guard can try to pick up on to find them, and that the Coast Guard had been deployed, but it was going to take 7 hours for them to just reach the site where the boat had gone down. And I don't know, I guess this hurricane had started out as a typhoon somewhere in the Asian continent and was dispersing into something smaller. But when it hit Guy and them, they had winds, I believe, that were over 100 knots. And the sea swells that he's talking about that hit the cover of the raft were like 35 feet tall coming down on him. So you can imagine the impact and how much. He said they just, once it hit that raft, they just got ping-ponged like ping pong balls across the ocean. And then we're fighting to get back to the raft. And I guess it's important too to know that the raft is black and gray, and it was 29 years old. And when you've got winds like that and it's dark, it was like 11:30 at night when it happened. How do you see a black raft? How do you get back to it? The screams of his crew members haunt him still to this day. But I just wish that they had been more honest with us, because they immediately put us in touch with their attorneys and told us they would keep us posted by what the Coast Guard was telling them. And the Coast Guard is saying, please just let us do our job so we can find them. The more they have to break away to explain where they are in the process, the more it interferes with them trying to save them. So I was trying to be patient. I had gotten a call at 2:30 in the afternoon. By 4 o'clock, I still didn't know anything. Then they would call and tell us 1 body was recovered, there's 9 missing. Another body is recovered, there's 8 missing. And we didn't know who was recovered or not and who was missing. So I'm trying to keep it together, but I'm really having a hard time. I'm trying not to lose it in front of my little boys, and trying to explain to them. I guess the thing that I feel really, really upset about the most is that when we went to, when I found out there were survivors, then I felt like we had some hope, but I kind of felt like they were trying to take all that hope away by not telling us anything. And then when I found out that my sister called my mom and said she looked up on the internet and found out there was 4 survivors. And that's how I found out there was 4 survivors. But we didn't know who they were. And I said, well, they know who they are. Can't they tell the Coast Guard to let us know that they're okay, whoever they are? And They just couldn't do that. So then it's about 9 o'clock at night, 9:30, and I get a call, and he explains to me that he's the doctor in ADAC and that he has a guy there with him. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, and he's alive. And I'm like, he's alive? And he said, yeah. So I really broke down at that point, and I was just so overwhelmed and happy and thankful and grateful to our Heavenly Father that he would spare his life, and knowing that so many others had passed. I just felt really bad for everybody involved. But at the same time, when they told us that there were survivors and that, or after the doctor said, I want you to calm down. I don't want Guy to hear you like this. When you get it together, then I'll give him the phone. And I was like, okay, I'm okay. I can talk to him now. And so it was just absolutely wonderful to hear his voice and know that he had survived such a horrific event and still been alive. But like I explained to the other family members who had lost people that day, in a sense, we did lose part of Guy because he wasn't the same person when he came back that he was when he left. He struggled with post-traumatic stress disorder for many years after that. And it's not just something that, you can just talk about once or twice. It's something that affects your whole family. My children and I witnessed him go through so much, and it started to affect us to where we were secondary PTSD. And I just wanted him to come home. I was so excited to see him. And so I'm talking to the representatives of the owners of the boat and asking them, when can I see him? And they're like, okay, well, they're going to fly him home tomorrow or the next day. And you can pick him up at the airport, da-da-da-da. And then, well, wait a minute, we don't want you to come pick him up. We'll just meet you somewhere. I said, no, I don't think you understand. We've been through a lot, and I want to see him, and I want to be there when he gets off that plane. And they would pass the phone from one person to another person, and then right as I'm at the airport, and I'm saying, okay, I'm here, where do I go? Well, we don't want to tell you because we don't want you to bring the media with you. We're afraid that you're going to get the media involved, and then this is just going to get all blown out of proportion. And I said, I promised you I wouldn't bring the media. But the only way I found out there were even survivors was to know that it was online. So the media obviously knows more than I do anyway. But they said, no, he's already jumped in a cab and left. I'm sorry, you're going to have to go somewhere else to meet him and pick him up. So I said, where do I go? And they're like, okay, well, go to Inlet Towers and you can pick him up over there. He should be there because he's already left, right? So I turn around and I'm headed toward Inlet Towers, and I get there and he's not there. And I'm like, what is going on? Why are they doing this to me? I've got my kids with me. We've all been through a lot, and we just want to see him. And then about 5 or 10 minutes later, the cab pulls up, and they pull up with the lawyers and the other survivors. And they looked like they had been through the worst fight, brawl, bar fight, street fight, and like they were outnumbered 10-1. They were beaten up so bad by the ordeal that they had suffered, and this is a couple days after the fact. I just really empathized with all of them, and just so grateful that Guy got to come home. And Heavenly Father is helping him through this ordeal, and he's become stronger. I know it's his desire that sharing his story will help others from having to experience the same things that he went through. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Guy and Colleen, for choosing Fairbanks to share that story for the first time and choosing Dark Winter Nights. We really appreciate the courage it takes to get up in front of a bunch of people and share something that personal and difficult for the first time. Well, there you have it, everyone. Alaskans can tell their own damn stories. We don't need Discovery Channel. We don't need History Channel. We can do it ourselves. These are the stories we tell up here in Alaska. And these are the stories we tell on dark winter nights. Have a good evening.